I'm Christine Dunbar from SpeechModification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent Training. In this video, we'll look at the words olive and alive. We'll talk about how to pronounce them, where to stress, and what these vowel letters and vowel sounds are. So these words are a great demonstration of how spelling might be confusing. So sometimes, these are not particularly challenging to pronounce in terms of the sounds in them. They don't have a lot of tricky elements, although you may find that some of the vowels or consonant sounds are part of accent error patterns in your speech. But really, it's about what we see when we see the written letters of English and what our brain tells us to say. Whereas if we learned these words from listening, we might have a challenge spelling them, knowing what letters to put down. So let's focus on the sounds of the words to help you learn about not just these words, but interpreting and pronouncing any word in American English. That's a big task, but that's the idea here. So looking at the word olive, we have this stress is on the first syllable ah. So that's my first clue. When I have letter O in a stressed syllable, in English, it often says vowel ah rather than O or ah or a rounded vowel. It can say O, it can say these other sounds as well, but the most common pronunciation for letter O in a stressed syllable is the ah sound. So the first thing to think of is that when you see this O, your brain might tell you to say O. You've been hearing it as olive if you're listening to native speakers. If your brain is telling you oh, you might end up with something a little in between like olive, or something that's not exactly an O or an ah, somewhere in between. So thinking and visualizing it as A or AH, if that letter is associated with the open ah sound in your mind, can help you to correct pronunciation for this word. And then the letter I in olive is the I sound. It's an unstressed syllable. It's fairly short, and it's that lax sound. It is just like the word live, but again, this word live doesn't follow the typical rules, because normally when we have an E at the end, a silent E, it'll make the vowel say its name. So typically, the spelling of something with an E at the end should be an I sound. In olive, it's just the I sound. So you might want to remember that, pair it with something like the word it's, or olive pit. Each of these letter I's also say the I sound. So if I remember olive pit, the IV and the I in pit should be the same, or it's an olive. That can help me with that I sound. Typically, this is not the challenge with the word olive, the second syllable, because the it tends to be shorter and it's more natural for most people to do that lax I sound in a short, unstressed syllable, like in olive. Just a note, when we make it plural, olives, we have the Z sound at the end, which for many people doing V and Z together, olives, can be challenging. You can think of it as a very short light S, olives, but you don't want your V to become an F. That won't work. You don't want olives. So if you have trouble with making that plural, I would suggest practicing linking it with another word like in or on or are, another word that starts with a vowel, because when I say that, olives are, olives in, olives on, I can put my Z sound on the next word, and that helps me keep my voice on and make it a Z rather than an S. You can learn more about plurals, whether they say S or Z, letter S, in my video about that, and it'll give you some tricks and tips for linking and pronouncing those plurals correctly. So we have olives, letter O, sound ah. Then when we switch to alive, we have second syllable stress. So here my live syllable has the long, clear vowel, and suddenly my first syllable, letter A, is not saying an A sound, but rather an sound. It's a short, unstressed schwa. symbol in the dictionary is this little upside down E, and what it sounds like is I read it as UH, so you can think about and visualize just that short little alive. Many words that start with letter A that are not stressed on the first syllable, like around, about, again, all have this schwa, sound in the first syllable. Again, you may see letter A and be thinking something more like ah. Your brain is telling you to say an ah or an a or an ah, and so you might find that it's difficult to focus on the stress syllable alive, and to make that first letter A short enough and reduced enough. To work on correcting that pattern, I suggest starting on the stress syllable. So just saying the word live, then add your short unstressed A sound, sound. Live, alive, alive. You can hear how I barely spent any time on that at all. Live has a nice long clear vowel. The is just very, very short little stepping stone to my stress syllable. The letter I in alive does say the I diphthong. So this one does follow the typical pattern and rule of American English, where we put an E at the end of the word and it makes the vowel letter say the same thing as the vowel name. So this letter name is I. It's actually that I diphthong. I wrote it here the same way as live. That might be a little confusing because that's also how we spell live. So you can also think about it, if it helps you, like lie, how we spell light, or lie, how we spell I. Of course, there's lots of different ways we spell the I sound, but most typical is an I plus an E, like in live or mine, etc. Okay, so once I can say olive and alive, have kind of figured out the vowel sounds and the syllable stress, I do want to try practicing in some short phrases, just so that that new pronunciation, if my pronunciation needed to change, comes more naturally and easily to me as I'm speaking in everyday speech. You may find that when you're working word by word on pronunciation that you master individual words, then you go to talk and those old habits, those old pronunciations come out. That's simply because I can't be thinking about specific pronunciation as I'm talking. I'm thinking about what to say and many other things. So it's hard for me to go, oh, the word alive is coming. I have to say instead of ah. I can't really do that. I need to have practiced and kind of built it naturally into phrases so that will come into my fluent everyday speech. If you have a request you'd like to see me cover in this Word of the Day series, feel free to leave that in the comments for this video or any of my videos. I'll be back again tomorrow with another Word of the Day class, as well as on Friday we have our live question and answer classes. Those happen at 12 o'clock Seattle time, 3 o'clock Eastern time here in the US. And you can attend on our YouTube channel, put your comments in the put your questions in the comments in the chat, and I'll answer them for you live. So we talk about words, word pronunciation, sounds, accents, lots of different things to help you improve overall. I also recommend my online courses on speechmodification.com. They're all either free or available for under $2. Our Sounds of English course will help you look at all of the different individual vowel and consonant sounds, spelling, accent error patterns, and tricks and tips like we talked about in today's class to help you improve your pronunciation for any word you might want to say in English. Thanks so much for those of you who have subscribed to the channel, and especially my channel members. I really appreciate your support. Look forward to seeing you again in our next class. I'm Christine Dunbar from SpeechModification.com. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. SpeechModification.com. Bye everyone. Hope to see you again soon.